TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Jared, hey, we're gonna need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern?
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and happy holidays to everyone here. Thursday, December 26th. Hope everyone's Christmas was joyous, happy, family time. A good time to reflect on a year that is rapidly ended. We have 5 days left in this year. It's just amazing. You blink. I was talking to Paul backstage, and all the prep that we do leading through the summer to get August all set up. And next thing you know, it's Labor Day, and then it's Halloween, and then it's Thanksgiving. And here we are here, less than a week away from the Final Eight in college football. It's been a great season, and I couldn't have done it without Paul here every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern to talk some college football. Shout out to our proud sponsor and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download that app. It is free. Viva Tequila Seltzer. New flavor Lemon. Followed up by coconut. The East Coast, of course, is cuckoo for coconut. They brought that in this summer. Big things happening with CT Bets Austin and that team. Check out Viva Tequila Seltzer. And, of course, Terry Smith, Atlanta Steaks and Seafood.com. Head on over to Facebook. Introduce yourself to Terry while you're there. Place an order with Atlanta Steaks and Seafood.com. Best in the business. I mean, especially with the holiday season still here, the New Year's. We got a lot of grilling still left with the college football playoffs. And, of course, the NFL playoffs and the Super Bowl. Go say hello to Terry for me. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Mr. Paul Stone.
Jeff, how we doing? Hope everybody out there had a Merry Christmas, and we're all primed for some college football. I tell you, we're recording here on December 26th on Thursday, and the bowl games are about to begin en masse. We're going to have a high concentration of bowl games over the course of the next week plus. So a great time of the year for us college football fans, ready to get after it.
Well, first and foremost, congrats. You were at the Texas Clemson game. Talking backstage, one of our losses over the weekend was that Clemson team total under the 19.5. I didn't see how they were going to get to 20, never mind 24. was probably one of the better games, Paul. Just the fact that Clemson wouldn't quit. They moved the ball well. You were live in Austin. What'd you see?
Well, it's an excellent Texas defense, first of all, and Cade Klubnik was really exceptional through the air. I've been critical of Cade Klubnik. He was a big-time 5-star recruit, actually out of Austin High School, out of Austin, Texas. Westlake High School, they're one of the perennial Texas high school powers. Ended up going to Clemson. His first year as a starter was last season, 2023, and then this season, last season was really choppy, as one might expect, but he progressed over this season, and I think he's a Heisman Trophy consideration in 2025. He is coming back. He threw for 336 yards against a Longhorn defense that's among the best in the nation. I think they were giving up maybe about 120 yards a game through the air coming in. So even though he doesn't have a great core of wide receivers, I mean, he was on the money. He's a big-time quarterback, and that's what it looks like. And really impressed with Clemson. Texas remains one of the teams that could win it all. We'll talk about the 8-team playoff and those that remain in this extremely balanced field, in my opinion. But Texas is a complete football team. They don't have any, real glaring weaknesses. And on any given day, I think they are as good as it gets. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all pans out. But Clemson had a game fight. They could have got the cover there. If they would have scored when Texas had that goal line stand late, they would have cut it to 7 and have been kicking an onside kick, with an opportunity, if they got the onside kick, to tie the game or perhaps go for the win. So it was a good football game, great atmosphere there in Austin for the first round playoff game.
Well, everyone in our lanes, Sock can't win the big one. He is a genius. He looks so calm, cool, and collected. You can say what, well, I guess you either love him or you hate him. I guess when Texas struggles, everyone wants Archie in. When Texas is just moving down the field, it's crickets. And I had this, excuse me, on my radar to ask you this. Is there a quarterback controversy? I mean, I know you as the starter. Manning is Manning, and we know what he can do. But, I mean, is there actually – does Sock say slow start? I'm going to bring Manning in to see what he's got today. Or it's yours job.
It is. I want to backtrack to something you said. I mean, I hear people being critical of Steve Sarkisian. And I've said it even before they made the playoff last year when people were calling for his head basically at the start of the 2023 season. Give this guy some time. He's a masterful recruiter. He has a tremendous staff. You can't underestimate the staff that he's assembled there in Austin. I don't think there's a program better postured for the next 5 years to be the program in college football than the University of Texas right now. I don't think there's a more highly valued head coach in college football than Steve Sarkisian right now. So I wanted to address that, and I got a little bit passionate about that. And what was your original question that I was supposed to be answering?
Is there a quarterback controversy?
Why? I'm sorry. There's absolutely no quarterback controversy, and whether there should be or not, is a different question. But they're going to go with Quinn Ewers this year. One thing that Sarkisian pointed out after the game, and he wasn't making it up, Texas had 2 long touchdown runs, I believe, and one, maybe both, by Jaden Blue. On both those plays, Sarkisian said, we were in a different play, a different formation. Ewers came to the line. He switched things up, and he said, we're running it this way. He looked at the defense. He read the defense. He saw numbers. They ran a totally different play out of a totally different formation on both occasions, long touchdown runs. An inexperienced quarterback doesn't do that. It doesn't show up in the stat box for Johnny Fan to be able to point to and say that's a check mark for Ewers. Quinn Ewers is not the best quarterback in college football, and he maybe has not been what many projected when ESPN, they rated him as the top high school prospect ever according to their rating system. So he came in to college football, signing with Ohio State originally and skipping his senior year in high school with great expectations, tremendous expectations, perhaps unreasonable expectations, but he could win a championship. Quinn Ewers, when he's at his best, he is really good. What Quinn Ewers has to do is avoid the bad plays. He makes one or two head scratching throws, it seems like, about every game, but there is no quarterback controversy. Myself, I would have maybe used personally Arch Manning a little bit more than Sarkisian has this year. And he, to date, he's been used, rather sparsely. But, the backup quarterback, man, they're always the most popular guy on the team, especially if they've got some talent and have some pedigree. So Arch Manning's that guy right now. And, it's just it'll be his turn next year. I think for sure it's going to be Arch's team. And Texas will have a true freshman on board next year, Dia Bell, the son of former NBA star Raj Bell. Dia Bell's as big of a prospect as Arch Manning. He might not have the name, but I tell you, Sark is just piling it up. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with as long as he's the head coach at the University of Texas.
And I don't think enough credit is given to what actually Texas did this year. Yeah, they have 2 losses to Georgia. Okay. But to bring in their team and just to do what they did in the SEC, there's no other team in the planet that could have done what they did this year.
Yeah, I mean, they had a favorable schedule by SEC standards, but they took care of business in navigating that schedule with the notable exception of Georgia, and in the SEC championship game, after, in my opinion, getting dominated in the first meeting in Austin in mid-October, the first half, they have a slim lead, but they've got a yardage advantage like 260 to 30 or whatever it was. That's not the right numbers, but they had a dominant first half, but they didn't get out in front of them and as much as they should have. And, Kirby Smart, he's won a few football games in Athens the last 5 or 6 years. So Georgia did a great job. And after Carson Beck got hurt at the end of the first half and is unfortunately out for the season, Gunnar Stockton, the backup, came in and did just a fantastic job against the Longhorns. So with the exception of Georgia, Texas played really well in those other 12 games, and they're actually, again, it's a wide open field among these 8 teams that remain, but Texas is actually the betting favorite, I think, virtually everywhere to win it all.
I'm going to say this, and I'm trying to brainstorm. I try to mute social media because, as you know, as the first weekend of games are going on, after every team that laid an egg, Indiana shouldn't have been in, Alabama should have been in, of course, and then SMU should have been, Alabama shouldn't have been in. Someone made a funny joke that Alabama should have been playing for the Steelers instead of the Steelers yesterday. Just making the joke. So I'm formulating something because you knew this, I knew this, the world knew this. We just didn't want to believe it. I'm a March Madness junkie just like you. When you put in 60, 64 teams, twice now, a 1 lost to a 16. Purdue and Virginia both lost to a 16. It can happen in basketball. It's 40 minutes, roll the ball out. If you're not hitting your threes, the other team, yada, yada, yada. My point is, how could we make this where we're not saying this team should have been in, this team shouldn't? So I formulated something. It's not perfect, Paul, but what I said is, if you cut out one of the non-conference games that you don't need, and each conference set up their own Final Four. So instead of just your championship, you got 4 in the SEC, you got 4 in the Big 10, 4 in the Big 12, 4 in the ACC, and in that Power 5, you could have 4 or 6. My point is, let them beat each other up. And then whoever wins the conference championship, if you didn't win your conference championship, how can you compete for a national championship? So everyone that's complaining that these teams didn't get in, well, they're going to fight it out, and whoever's the last man standing, then you get your Final 5, and then you figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to do it. There's so many approaches. College football is so subjective. And again, I say all the time, the biggest issue that we have to navigate that sometimes the casual college football fan doesn't understand is that these conferences, in my opinion, are disparate. They're not the same. So I think sometimes the fourth best team, especially as the two major conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten, grow, the fourth or fifth place in the one of those conferences might be better than the best team in the ACC or the Big 12, hypothetically. So I would always like to see the best teams in, regardless of their conference affiliation. And I love the underdog stories, but I hear people say, how could you leave this team out, or how could you leave that team out? Well, you're picking the Big 12, the best 12 teams, and they're the 13th or 14th. That's how we can leave them out. It's not like it's the committee's job to put in the great underdog story or something. And I'm all for the underdog. Love the underdog. One of the reasons I've loved college football for many years. But if you get the best teams in, it's always going to be a difficult process. There's always going to be dispute and disagreement among committee members and those who make these choices. And it's always going to be a difficult choice. It's easy to rail on the committee, as I and many others have done, and to take exception with their ultimate findings and seedings and choices of teams. But it's a very, very difficult job. But don't take the easy way out. And I think the easy way out is just looking at that loss column, because it's easier to explain to that marginal fan. And that's kind of who their target is, I think. It's easier to complain, well, they only had one and they had two, or they had one and they had three. And as I like to say, and I said over and over, it's not always how you play, it's who you play. And these teams don't play the same people. Indiana's non-conference schedule, I think they played me and 10 guys from the Westgate one game. It was Florida International and, Sisters of the Poor and whomever else, but they did a great job. I'm taking a little bit of stab at Indiana. They had a great season, an unbelievable story. To take a program like that in his first year and win, 11 games in the regular season, and to exceed expectations at the level they did was incredible. But they were not a playoff team. And it didn't have anything to do with their performance against Notre Dame. They were not, you can't really count that game because the decision had to be made before that game, but they were not quite a playoff team. They weren't far off, in my opinion, but I don't think they should have been there. But I think the same thing about SMU, as you indicated. I'm a Texan. I love SMU. Have family members that went to SMU, and had a niece who was featured twirler at SMU just a few years ago. So it's near and dear to my heart, but the Mustangs shouldn't have been in the tournament either. We're trying to get the best 12 teams, and it's a difficult job.
Before we get into this weekend's games, bowl games again today, program note to everyone watching and listening. Shout out to Mr. Richard Populus. Go Huskies. Hope you had a great Christmas with you and your family there. Me and Paul will be back here Tuesday, New Year's Eve, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. We're going to break down the one game, obviously, on New Year's Eve night, and then Paul will break down the three on New Year's Day. Before we get to the games this weekend, today, tomorrow, et cetera, the final four games on New Year's Eve, Penn State, Boise State opened at 10.5 with a 54.5. Now Penn State 11 with a 52. Texas opened up 13.5 against Arizona State with a 51.5, 13.5 with a 52. Ohio State, Oregon. Ohio State opened up at 1, now 2.5 with a 55. Notre Dame, Georgia. I was following Jeffrey Benson to make sure I didn't miss this. I'm a firm believer of opening numbers, and I trust and respect the opening number. He opened up Notre Dame minus 1.5. That thing, as soon as it hit to the public, boom, it went to 1. It went to a pick 'em. Now, as we speak, Georgia minus 1 and a 44. I know you're a power rankings guy. We remember what we saw last. Surprise, Notre Dame opened up as a short favorite, which again was only for a blink of an eye. Before you put your head down, Georgia was 1 in every book around.
Yeah, and I make my own numbers, and I made Georgia 1. The kind of the challenge here is Georgia's quarterback change. You're going from a veteran Carson Beck to a guy Gunner who had not played until the second half of the Texas game. So, how does that equate? How does that all work out? How does that impact Georgia's power ranking? Carson Beck, frankly, was better in the second half of 2023 last season than he was in 2024. He had 3 games, I believe, this season where he threw 3 interceptions or more. So the drop off to Connor Stockton might not be that great. So, that's kind of the challenge here. How do we justify and quantify that quarterback change? And I basically didn't make any change, maybe just a half a point. But I think Georgia deserved to be a small favorite, just based as much as anything on their recent history. They've been in these spots. They've raised the gold ball, so to speak, and just it's a toss up. I mean, whoever wins this game is probably gonna get the money, and it is a closely contested game on paper. But I think it was either pick or Georgia -1 was my opinion.
Amber says, we're getting it. Go Bucks. I've been waiting all year for that statement. Like, all right, I know what the numbers say. I know what I hear from my colleagues who I respect. We saw that Ohio State team last weekend, Paul. An impressive, I mean, they had to sit in there, after the Michigan loss. And I tell you what, hats off to Ryan Day. He had them ready. A statement in my eyes from Ohio State last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, coaches, and I agree, you never want to lose a game. The goal, as one coach said, is to win the game. And Ohio State got humiliated somewhat by Michigan. But my point being, in retrospect, when this tournament is said and done, that might have been the best thing to ever happen to the Buckeyes, to get that late season reminder, boost, a bit of motivation, however you want to frame it. And if their quarterback, if Will Howard is taking care of the football and not turning it over and the machine's clicking, I mean, Ohio State to me is the best team. I said earlier in the year, during the summer and even in the spring, that at 21 of 22 positions, Ohio State's the best team in the country. It comes down to what type of quarterback play they get from Will Howard. And, it's been up and down. He does turn the ball over. His history shows, even, well before he arrived in Columbus at Kansas State, had some turnover issues. So that's going to be their key, how he plays in these big games. And if he plays like he did last week in that victory over Tennessee, Ohio State's going to be a tough out. And what a matchup this is at the Rose Bowl coming up next week between Ohio State and Oregon. A rematch of Oregon's 1-point victory at Alston Stadium during the regular season.
At some point, I would assume, this reminds me of last year, Washington and Oregon. Oregon goes to Washington, loses a close game. Don't worry, we're going to get them at Allegiant Stadium in the Pac-12 championship. They were steamed to 9.5-point favorites against Washington. Washington beats them again. We're getting to that point. My assumption is it's up to 2.5. Is if that thing ever tips 3, I would assume, I hate to say the sharps versus the public, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, if that thing tips 3, you gotta at least grab some part of Oregon +3, and then you go from there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. If it goes to 3, which I'm not sure it will, but if it does go to 3, it's only going to be there momentarily, because like you said, the sharps are going to come in and some of them are going to have deep pockets, and the book will get the money they want, and then they'll shift it back to 2.5. But I tell you, if you're a Oregon backer and you're looking for 3, you're going to have to stay on top of the screen, because it's going to be there, I think, a relatively short amount of time, if it gets there at all. But, this game, if you eliminate every other game and you only look at the Ohio State at Oregon game back during the regular season, Oregon wins by 1 point on their home field. People say, I think Alston Stadium's maybe worth more than 3.5 points, but that's kind of the general consensus. Home field is worth 3.5 points. So 1 point victory, 3.5 for home field. Now you're on a neutral. that equates to Ohio State minus 2.5. So if you look at that game, and that's what Oregon people, not only Oregon people, but some college football and some handicappers who do it well have trouble with the fact that Ohio State's favored, even though they lost to Oregon during the regular season. Well, guys, those of us who do power rankings, if for that single game at Autzen Stadium in Eugene, if you didn't give Ohio State a higher power rating than Oregon had in that game, then you're not doing it right. Even though Oregon won, Ohio State's performance came on a road field in a hostile environment. So they get a higher power ratings because your power rating doesn't care about, who does care about who won, but the side is a big component of that. So I think you understand where I'm coming from there. Ohio State losing by 1 at Autzen is better, slightly better than Oregon by winning by 1 at Autzen when you get it now to a neutral field. So Ohio State, they might not win, and the point spread is not a prediction of who's going to win, and a lot of people don't understand that either. But it's the line's appropriate. It's where I had it. I thought it was going to be just under a field goal. They want to be somewhere between 1 and 3, kind of in the middle, and that's where they are. And I think that's kind of where it's going to stay. But if it touches 3, it's not staying there for long.
I'm going to go to a couple quick commercial breaks, Paul. When we come back, I'm going to give you the field, what your eyes see today, tomorrow, Saturday, any recommendations and leans that you might have for the standing room only crowd that we got right now. So I'm going to go a couple quick commercials, and when we come back, the stage is yours. Stay tuned, people. We got 3 games on the docket today. Pittsburgh, Toledo in the Sports Bowl, Rutgers, Kansas State in the Rate Bowl, and Arkansas State Bowling Green in the 68 Ventures Bowl game. Tomorrow, Georgia Tech and Vanderbilt. This one Friday as well. I think it's my favorite one. Oklahoma and Navy square off, and Texas, Arkansas, Syracuse, Washington, Texas A&M on USC. I'll stop there. The field is yours, my friend.
All right. Well, I've got a couple of plays tomorrow, and then another play that's going to be in a bowl game on Tuesday, the 31st. And we'll start tomorrow in the Liberty Bowl, which is going to be Arkansas of the Southeastern Conference against Texas Tech of the Big 12. Arkansas opened about a 3-point favorite here, but money has arrived on Texas Tech. The game now pick 'em at several books that I'm seeing with a total of 52. And Arkansas, they have almost inarguably, Washington State can make a claim, I guess, but Arkansas has been the bowl team most impacted by the transfer portal, in my opinion. By my last count, they had 27 players who had entered the portal. They figure to be especially thin tomorrow in this game against Texas Tech, especially thin on offense. They're going to be without 3 starting linemen, it looks like. They're starting tight end Luke Haas, who has moved on to Ole Miss. Their top 2 wide receivers, one of whom is Andrew Armstrong, 1,140 yards receiving this year, are going to be without their top 2 running backs. And that's just on offense. Defensively, their defensive tackle, Eric Gregory, he's opted out to prepare for the NFL draft. Eric Gregory's only started 44 career games in his collegiate career, so he has a little bit of experience there up front. And then linebacker Brad Spence, he was one of their playmakers, 6 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks this year. He entered the portal. He's transferred to the University of Texas, and they're not just taking anybody these days, so Spence can play. Texas Tech's losses, they have not been as significant, but they are going to be without their starting quarterback, Bayron Morton, who has had shoulder surgery within the past week. He will not play in the bowl game. He will be replaced by true freshman Will Hammond. Hammond only threw about 23 passes during the regular season, so only saw spot duty, but he was a big-time recruit out of Hutto, Texas, outside of Austin, threw for over 3,900 yards as a high school senior. Much like Arch Manning, everybody loves the backup quarterback, and they're talking a lot about Will Hammond in Lubbock, Texas. I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be a guy to watch against Arkansas. But this is not the same Arkansas team even that we saw during the regular season. They've been decimated through the transfer portal. I'm surprised the number has not moved much more significantly. Texas Tech should be favored in this game. Texas Tech, probably my favorite release of the bowl season. Also tomorrow, you've got Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech, an intriguing game. Georgia Tech favored by 3, pretty much consensus across the board. Vanderbilt, that's a team that obviously kind of shocked the college football world when they upset Alabama around midseason as more than a 20-point underdog. They lost their final 3 regular season games. They seemed to run out of gas. They lost to South Carolina, LSU, and Tennessee, who are not bad people to lose to, but didn't play quite as well down the stretch as they played during the midpoint, or as they played around the midpoint of the season. Their quarterback, Diego Pavia, I think he was a little bit, banged up and bruised and maybe facing a little mental fatigue as well. And they've had a chance to recharge. This is a Georgia Tech team, which finished the season with 3 really hard-fought one-score games that went down to the wire. One of those was a 28-23 victory over Miami at home. And then one of the others, the latter regular season finale, an 8 overtime crushing loss to Georgia, 44-42, one of the games of the year in college football. In my opinion, you have to wonder which team is going to be more heavily invested physically, mentally, and emotionally in this bowl game. And I think it's going to be Vanderbilt that's going to be more excited about being here. The Yellow Jackets, Georgia Tech, more impacted by the transfer portal. Eric Singleton, their top receiver, top offensive player besides quarterback Haynes King, he's gone in the portal. He's gone to Auburn. Their left tackle, Corey Robinson, won't be playing. Their number 2 receiver is also out and not playing. And linebacker Romello Height won't play as well. These guys have entered the portal. I'm going to take the SEC over the ACC. I like Vanderbilt as the more motivated team, +3 over Georgia Tech. And then we'll move to Tuesday in the Texas Bowl on New Year's Eve, December 31st. Baylor of the Big 12 playing LSU of the Southeastern Conference. LSU opened as a favorite, but now that game has crossed 0, and Baylor's as high as a 2.5-point favorite here in the Texas Bowl to be played in Houston. One of the slogans that we've heard in the SEC through the years is it just means more. And I think in this case, it means more to the Baylor Bears. I think Baylor, they're coming off of a 3-win season. Dave Aranda, who ironically LSU's defensive coordinator once upon a time, so he's playing his favorite team. But Dave Aranda, Baylor's head coach coming into this year, his seat was more than hot. I don't even think you could have touched your backside on it for very long, because there was some talk that he wouldn't even survive the 2023 season. They gave him another year. He's off that 3-9 year. They started out really bad, but down the stretch, man, they were rolling. They won a lot of football games. I think they're I should have it at my fingertips. They're on a 6 or so, I think 6 straight victories, but they really played down the stretch. A lot of it was due to the play of their quarterback, Sawyer Robertson, a guy who signed out of high school with Mississippi State, and the late Mike Leach later transferred to Texas Tech, but he's a West Texas guy, and he's thrown for a lot of yardage this year. He's thrown for over 2,600 yards, 63%, averages 8.3 yards per attempt, completes 63% of his throws. And LSU doesn't defend the pass all that well. LSU gave up 7.6 yards per pass attempt, ranked 84th nationally. So I think Baylor, the more motivated team, is going to be able to throw the football against LSU, probably going to be some points. But I think Baylor's going to win this football game by a field goal or more. So I like Baylor -2.5 over LSU on New Year's Eve in the Texas Bowl in Houston, Texas.
Last question. I'm going to piggyback off of that. Let's just say Baylor steamrolls them. LSU doesn't show up. What is the temperature in LSU and Brian Kelly? I mean, listen, everyone wants to fire the coach. Okay, if this was the case, there'd be 100 openings. You can't just replace a guy because the fan base wants him out. Who are you going to replace him with? So if Baylor steamroll them, will Brian Kelly be in that hot seat that you're talking about the start of next year?
He might be in the hot seat, starting the 2025 season, but his buyout is extremely high. I don't know what it is, again, at my fingertips, but like you said, who's available this late in the cycle? If you're going to fire somebody, you're going to have to hire somebody. And if you're going to fire somebody this season, you needed to fire him before now, because the pool of candidates has been shrunk, the better candidates, unless you've got some wild card in mind. And it comes down to who the AD wants or the president. So, whoever the other people of influence might be as well in some cases. But this is not the time to be firing a coach if you want to hire a name that LSU is going to hire. And there's certainly, I don't think Brian Kelly does himself any favors with kind of his demeanor and disposition and some of his antics. When you're winning, all sins are covered up. All the warts are beauty marks. But when you lose a game or two, then, all hell breaks loose and fire the coach, and we got to get somebody better. Brian Kelly, he's not maybe my favorite guy in college football, but on the other hand, this guy's won some football games, and he's won at a lot of different places, a lot of different levels. So I think he can, regardless of what people's initial impression might be of him, I think he can probably coach a little football. And, I think some of their issues too might just be the locker room environment. Some of the guys maybe they have on hand there. And, it's tough. You can't win every year. You're not going to win every year. And when you're accustomed to winning, they won the national championship back in 2019 in such impressive fashion. And you create success, and the expectations grow higher, and sometimes they grow unreasonable. But you're right. If he does lose in big fashion, the pressure will be ramped up a little bit, but I don't think it would really, come into effect till you start the 2025 season. And then I don't think he could afford, anything less than a 10-win season or so, and probably a playoff appearance.
Well, we all know on X to head on over to Paul Stone Sports. We always wrap this show up here talking about your website and where they can find all your information if they'd like, Paul.
Well, they can find me, first of all, at your local watering hole. No, I'm joking, Jeff. I'm sure we can say jokes here. At my local watering hole. No, I'm kidding you. I am available at X, as you said, at Paul Stone Sports. And then I have a website, paulstonesports.org. If someone wants to go take a look there, it's pretty easy to navigate. And enjoy talking college football with you this season. And we probably have at least one or two more shows to go before we get it all wrapped up.
Yes, I got tears in my eyes because we're running out of shows. We will be back on Tuesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 o'clock your time, to break down the Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve game, and of course the 3 there, and then we'll get down to the semis and the final. So, Paul, have a great weekend. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Hey, a lot of games coming up this next week or so, college football. So enjoy these games when we have them.
All right. You take care, Paul.
Same to you.
Paul Stone, go follow him at Paul Stone Sports. While you're there, go check out the website at paulstonesports.org. Couple quick commercial breaks, and when we come back, we will wrap it up. Stay tuned. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot.
Shout out to Marty Lowe, Amber Hawley, Richard Poplis, Emil, Danny. The list is endless. Russell Saylor, Mr. Lucky, Dr. Lance. Couldn't have done it without you guys. Again, 5 days left in this year. January 1st, 2025, we start our 10-year anniversary. 10 years of public service right here on social media. We couldn't be more stoked and happy. A lot of big things coming in 2025. That's all I can say. I can't let the cat out before the bag. We will have breaking news throughout the start of next year. Trust me on that. Tomorrow, 11 a.m., 4 Men in a Box, the NCAA Insiders, to break down the college football bowl games for the weekend. We'll do some talks, obviously, about the upcoming games on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day there. And then at 11:35, 11:40, Adam Trigger at Adam Trigger WT, Wager Talk, to talk some college hoops. And then potentially 1:30, we'll keep our fingers crossed, Travis Geiger, Wager Wire, will be here to wrap up the year in review. Wager Wire, big things coming. Big things have already happened. Head on over to Google Play, download that app at Wager Wire. It's free. And then me and Riley going to try to slip in the show sometime late afternoon. We're going to get a wrap up of the week. And then, of course, what to expect from the weekend. Again, shout out to everyone here. Couldn't have done it without you guys. Have a great day. Hope everyone's holiday was great. Listen, if you're struggling, you need somewhere to vent, my DMs are open 24/7, 365 at EC Sports Invest. The holiday season isn't always what it's cracked up to be. Family, friends, foes. It's not easy for a lot of people. Trust me. I've been there. I lived it. Still live it sometimes. But my DMs, I'm here to listen. I'm here to help if needed. So again, at EC Sports Invest, the DMs are open 24/7, 365. Love you guys. Have a great day, and we will see you soon.